It's another edition of The Reset, and Bane and I heard all of your comments, so let's go.
It's The Reset with G. Scott.
Brandon Mebane, 13-year Super Bowl champion, joins us now. Bane, what's good?
Man, what's going on, G? How you doing?
I'm good. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Subscribe, and share this as well. Bane, first of all, before we get into it, by the way, you know there's a whole lot of people that's heard your comment when I asked you, what did you think about the Seahawks' first pick in the NFL draft?
Right.
A lot of people, it's interesting, a lot of people are saying the same thing, Bang. A lot of people say, but did you see him in the Senior Bowl? Well, what about the Senior Bowl? And the one thing that I'll say is that is 90%, 95% of the pushback. Even former players have been saying that. So I'm going to give you an opportunity. I'm going to ask again. What do you think about the Seahawks' first pick in the 2025 draft in Grey Zabel?
Okay, first of all, when I mentioned, Gray's about him getting drafted, right? I would have said he's a draft pick, but I wouldn't have picked him in the first round, right? And I'm gonna tell you why, one more time, right? The reason why I wouldn't have picked him in the first round is because, first of all, you have to, we're evaluating a player in the Senior Bowl, right? We can look at his game film, right? Go from there, look at the game film, grade him out on the game film, and then we can see, how productive he is in the Senior Bowl, right? But we have to all go back and actually ask ourselves and read the rules if, we never participated in an All-Star game. An All-Star game is not a realistic game. The reason why I say it's not a realistic game is because it's only certain things that you can do and you can't do. For example, as an offensive lineman, you won't see the defense run blitzes, right? As an offensive lineman, you won't see defensive linemen running games, right? So in those two
Real quick, stop right there. There's some people listening. Can you explain running games, please?
So when you run games, right, you have games to where a D tackle, we call it a TE, right? These are some basic games, right?
Okay.
A tackle and an end, right? They're running game, right? A TEs to where the tackle go first and then the end come around the tackle, right? Mm-hmm. You don't see that, right? The next game you'll see is actually like at least 3 games you'll see up front, right? Basic games. And then you'll see where the end goes first and the tackle goes around the end, right? The next game you will see a game between the tackles, right? Where one tackle goes first and then the other tackle wraps around, right? But usually when those 2 games where the tackles go, both of those are usually you see they will both end up usually in A gaps. Those are like 2 A gap type stunts, right? To where when you run the game between the end and the tackle, that usually is a B gap, A gap type game.
Right. Okay.
And then end goes first. Usually that's a B gap and C gap.
Right. I just wanted you to explain the games, but go ahead with the rest of it.
Right. So, and that's the case to where all those games, right, you covering A gaps, B gaps, and C gaps. So you see the movement, you see the communication, right? The reason why you can't do that as in an All-Star game is because the communication will be off. 9 times out of 10, the defensive lineman will win, right? Because defensive linemen, sometimes, if you're just good at running games, then, you'll win, right? So that's not like a realistic type of thing that you would see in an All-Star game, right?
So, Bane, I'll tell you what I hear from you. And I like to think about things in real life and relate because I do think football is life. It sounds like you're not saying that he isn't a draft pick. You were just saying you just don't think he is a first-round draft pick. And it sounds like that you weigh a draft pick on different criteria, like a credit score, right? If you go to your credit score right now and you look, how do they determine your credit score? They usually go off number of accounts. Are you late on any payments? What's your credit limit? What's your inquiries? So there's different things that help determine your credit. And it feels like 95% of people, when they disagree with you, they bring up the Senior Bowl. And so what you're saying is, great, he did awesome in the Senior Bowl, but you're saying you don't think you should be a first-round pick based on that one criteria, right?
Right. It's right. And we have to ask ourselves, right? Okay, it's not a real game. And he actually, so we saying that he's a first rounder off of 2 practices. And we talking about, that's not a game. We talking about 2 practices, right? So, for example, I throw myself in there, right? I went down to the Senior Bowl and I pretty much did a great job, excellent job in one-on-ones. Was I ready to be a first rounder? No, right? Did I have all the criterias tuned up to be a first rounder at the time? No. Did I finish as a first rounder? Yes. You see what I'm saying? And then in my years, right, we had what we call two-a-days, to where we had 100-play rep practices type thing, to where you mess up, you do good. You mess up, learn from it, do good, mess up, right? To where now you have a limited amount of reps, to where you might have maybe 30 plays in one practice, right? To where you're not like actually going into over and over and over again. This is the thing. When you draft a guy first round, a first rounder, second rounder are guys that's coming in, we need them to play right away.
Okay.
You don't have no time to actually develop. You have to play right now. We need you right now. That's why we're drafting you in the first round to play right now. Right. And then another thing that people are not understanding is this, right? He's changing positions. So he started as an offensive tackle, and you asking him to play guard. That's a whole nother beast, right? Mm-hmm. That he's going to have to come against, right? I'm not saying he's a good player or a bad player. I'm just saying the expectations, I believe, and what I've seen is too high.
I did hear something you just said, and I want to talk about that. You said that when it was time for you to get drafted, you were not a first rounder because you didn't have the catalog to get you there. You did great in the Senior Bowl, but you didn't finish. You weren't a first rounder. You finished your career as a first rounder because we all know your resume. Right. So let me ask that about Grey Zabel. So Grey Zabel out of North Dakota State, obviously he's first round, but obviously when you get in the league, we'll see how it goes. Does he still have the opportunity? It kind of sounds like what you're saying. He has the opportunity to still finish out as a first rounder. That lesson and that learning curve is going to have to happen.
Exactly. Yeah, he definitely have the opportunity, to prove people like me that I proved you wrong. Cool. I mean, 100%. I'm rooting for you. Right?
We all are.
But as far as him seeing the competition day in and day out, we can't sit up here and lie to ourselves and say they played in the top division or top conference, every Saturday, which that's not true.
Yeah. You know what, Bane? It seems like one thing about the NFL draft, right? So usually the NFL draft gets a grade all the time. Well, this grade was an A or this grade was a C. And then there's always a regrade of that class based on how they did in the league.
Right.
Let me ask you this. What percentage of players that end up being good are good because they were good already, and the other percentage of players that were good but not all that great, but they got in and they got developed. They had a great position coach. They had great veterans around them. How often does that happen?
A lot of times it comes down to the overall success of the team. If your team has success, then automatically, the player will probably qualify and he stayed healthy and did everything he's supposed to do, then a lot of times that's what happened. Sometimes good players just get to a team or organization that's just they just having a rough time. So to me, if I'm grading, I would never ever, no matter how good of a player they were in college, I will always start everybody off with at least a C plus, every team, right? And then at the end, we would say A, B, C, D, E, or G, whatever, right? But I would never ever, because don't nobody know if anybody's going to pan out.
2012 Seahawks draft class. You guys can put in the comments right now. Just so we remember that 2012 class with Russell Wilson and, of course, my man Bobby Wagner and all, it didn't have a favorable grade, just so we're clear.
Right. Yeah. And those are good players. And we already, before they came, we already were on the rise of being a great overall team. So when you go to an overall great team, then you draft pretty well or very well, like we did in 12, then the success is endless, Yeah.
How
those guys
great
are still playing.
How Grey Zabel will be judged, and I like this part of what you're saying. He's going to be judged first by the success of the team, second by the success of the O-line, right? So those are things, and then it'll be some technical stuff, which, by the way, I don't know many people. I'll give a shout out to those offensive linemen that I do know, or defensive linemen that go against them. I don't know many people that are able to dissect and understand the hands of the offensive line. So
right.
I want to go and switch gears to another topic. And the biggest topic right now is the national media and its expectation of the Seahawks this year. And I'm kind of shocked. Right now, Bane, Vegas has the Seahawks at 7.5. Right now, the national experts or whatever, the expectation is that the Seahawks will probably finish last in the NFC West division.
Right.
Why do you think that is? What am I missing?
Well, I think where they're going with it, I think what the national media is going off of is this. They're going off of look at the offense, right? Let's just focus on the offense. Out of 11 picks, they drafted 9. You got 9 rookies on offense. You have a new quarterback, pretty much a new receiving room, a revamped offensive line, sort of. It's just an unknown, right? So if you look at the other teams in the division, they already have the same quarterback they had for at least 3 or 4 years, right? Yep. Same head coach, pretty much same coordinators. So they really are just going off of you just rolling the dice, or you just placing a bet at the cage. Like, I'm gonna put my money on these other teams because these other teams have the same head coach, same quarterback, made some additions. I'm gonna say they're going to be more successful than the Seahawks. So that's pretty much what you're really going off of. You're going off of what they did last year and what they looking like this upcoming year. It's a prediction.
Right.
It's not, rotten blood or not,
And when it comes to the unknown, and one of the things that I have said over the last few days is, and I actually got a text message just yesterday, and a very specific question, and it was, do you think that Sam Darnold is better than Geno Smith? And I had to sit back and think about that for a second. And my answer was, I don't know. And I mean that truthfully. I don't know. And I think that answer is going to be seen this season. As a matter of fact, Bane, I think Sam Darnold needs to be better than Geno was last season in order for the Seahawks to do what I think that they can do, to do what I think a lot of Seahawks fans think that they can do.
Yeah.
I don't think that he can come in and be just a little bit. No. He has to be better than Geno.
Right. And, we can ask ourselves this. We can just be, totally honest, right? Now, did Sam Darnold have a better offense and a better situation in Minnesota last year compared to Geno? Absolutely, 100%. Did he have a better receiving core, great offensive coordinator as a head coach, better offensive line, run game, had the total package. Overall, as a team, the Vikings were better.
Yeah, I mean, and the record said so. Okay.
Right. Now, he's coming to a situation to where it doesn't look like that in Seattle like they look in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. That's promise.
If we starting right now, it doesn't look like that, right?
Right.
Can it possibly be like that?
Sure.
Yeah. No, we don't know. We will all, we will all know and we will all see when week one, whoever they play week one, we will see what it looked like.
I think one of the things that really stands out, and as I go into this season, and I'm glad you brought you made a great point. There was 11 draft picks, 9 were on offense. So obviously, right. I think we know you have the Seahawks, of course, losing Geno, losing DK, losing Tyler Lockett. You're talking about 3 huge pieces to this offense and having to address that. So there's no doubt about it. And pointing out that there were 9 of the 11 picks, that's a great point. And I do think that this season, a lot of will remain to be seen about what the offense does. But the one thing that I hang my hat on, and I think you have been talking to me about this, and you like what you see. I think the Seahawks have the best defense in the division right now, on paper.
Okay.
I think they have the best division. And I want to start with your part of the ball, your position group, the D-line. I'd argue that D-line, on paper, right, because we're going to see what happens with DeMarcus Lawrence and all this stuff. On paper right now, this D-line, I believe, is the best in the division.
I have to disagree with you on that. I like the Seahawks defensive line and their linebacker core. But I think the Rams, and I hate to say this, but I think the Rams is a little bit more put together.
Why?
Man,
why you rain on my damn parade? Why?
I'm sorry, man. Just the way they performed in the first round of when they played Minnesota, they shut down a pretty good offense, man. That was impressive.
I mean, Sam Darnold in that game. I mean, is that what happened? Because Sam Darnold in that game it was a little rough. It was a little rough.
He couldn't do nothing. They was hunting up front. I think they finished the game with like 10 sacks. This is my belief, right? I think if the Rams were playing Philly in a warmer environment, I think that game would have been a little bit different.
Really?
I think it would have been. Yes, I think it would have been a little bit different. The Rams is going to be a problem, man. If I was had to pick, just to be realistic, not biased, I would pick the Rams as the best team in the division.
Whew.
Yeah.
Hold on, man. I wasn't ready. Hey, by the way, if you're listening right now, one thing you're gonna learn about the reset in my conversations with Bane, Bane is not gonna sugarcoat it. Okay? So you're gonna get the real deal. So you want the truth or you want it sugarcoated, right? Sometimes you got that family member to tell you the truth, or you got that friend to tell you got a booger in your nose. You need that person, and that's Bane right here. Okay, hold on, let's get to it. You really think the Rams the best team in the division?
Yeah, right now, yes, I would go on the record and say that, yes. Yep. The 49ers their offense is going to take a shift this year, I believe, because they're missing Debo. And the Cardinals is kind of like just an unknown. I would say they're an unknown as well, right? This is unknown. I think their rhythm is they're still trying to figure out their rhythm.
Right.
But to me, the team that have the best rhythm in this division right now, if there was a play right now, I probably would say the Rams. That's the team right now that you have to beat them.
Let's go outside of this division, and I want to stay in the NFC. Something happened recently, and all I could think about was Bane. And here's why. As you all know, Bane still says that the Seahawks need a big receiver. He keeps saying that. He says it on the record.
A.J. Brown.
He says it off the record. He keeps telling me, G, y'all need a big receiver. And so sometimes I don't be trying to hear it. You know what I mean? Sometimes, you got that friend that you ain't trying to hear what they got to say. And then something happened the other day. There was a trade made. The Pittsburgh Steelers traded George Pickens to the Dallas Cowboys. Now, while I wasn't shocked, because I wasn't shocked that they made a trade, because I didn't think that they would go into that season with DK and George in the same room. However, I was shocked that it went to the Cowboys. And let me set it up for y'all, just so you all know. CeeDee Lamb, who was their number one receiver last year, did not get a deal. He's still on his first contract. And George Pickens is coming there, still on his first contract. Bane, what were your thoughts when you saw that the Dallas Cowboys got George Pickens?
I was like, wow, that's going to be interesting because I don't think they're going to be able to afford both of them. I see them keeping, what's his name,
Pickens, yep. Mm-hmm.
Because usually when you make a trade, you usually hang around and give that guy either you give him a deal either that season or you give him coming up in the off season, right?
Right.
So I don't think they're going to be able to keep both of them. To me, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, it looks nice on paper. Like if we playing 7-on-7, the Cowboys, look pretty decent.
Right.
But to me, you have to address that offensive defensive line, right? Last 2 years, the Dallas defensive line struggled against the run, right? And if you struggle against the run, I don't care how good you look on the back end, it don't matter, right? The offensive line, I think they need to go back and figure out their identity as well and run the ball more effectively. They didn't run the ball effectively last year either. So, that looked good on paper, but still you have two number one receivers and they both going to want the ball. And do you really want to put your quarterback in a situation where he's throwing the ball 60 times in the game? I don't think that's healthy at all.
What's more likely coming up next season? What's more likely that the Dallas Cowboys sign both of those receivers the same way the Cincinnati Bengals sign both of their receivers in T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, or one of those wide receivers stay and one of those wide receivers go? Because I got to tell you, I think this is a good strategy, having the both of them come and play still on their first contract.
Well, you got an issue on defense. You got a guy on defense who wants to be the highest paid defensive player in the NFL.
That's right, Micah Parsons.
So either you're going to keep those two on offense and Michael Parsons walk. So that's an issue.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay, so have you – okay, so speaking of that, let's stay in that same area. First, I think those listening, you put in the chat right now, I don't think anybody would be okay for the Dallas Cowboys, especially if you're a Cowboy fan, signing both those wide receivers and not keeping Micah Parsons. So one of those three is not going to be there next year. Now,
I believe Michael Parsons is going to be there.
I believe Michael Parsons is going to be there too.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, here's a question for you, Bane. It seems like, do you need two number one wide receivers to win in the NFL?
I'm going to say no. You don't need two wide receivers. I believe you need one wide receiver as a number one, and you need a tight end. Because you got to understand, both those number one wide receivers are going to want reps, right? The tight end usually is not really thinking like a receiver because he's inside, outside, right? And there's only certain times of the game you're really going to throw the ball to the tight end. You don't throw the ball to the tight end as much as you do a receiver, right? And another thing, you have to have a run game. You need to have a something else as rhythm. Some teams have a great air attack and not a great ground game. Sometimes, that air attack is not always work. So sometimes you need to say, hey, man, we need to slow it down. Or if you're up, we need to play keep away. We don't need to keep throwing it to the wide receivers, right?
Right.
And a lot of times, too, it's like playing basketball, man. When you're beating a team by 30, what do you teams usually do? They take their starters out, right? Especially if it's in a series, you like, man, we don't want them dudes to get hurt.
Right.
Because at the end of the day, we have to always understand numbers at one point, at some point, doesn't mean what they mean. It doesn't matter as long as you win.
Yeah, so you've taught me that, because you taught me, you got that quarterback that throws it 45, 50 times for 350 yards and lost the game.
Yeah, still lose. What does that matter, right? Did we win as a team, right? Because if we win as a team, we all stay employed.
Mm-hmm.
If you get the numbers and dude is an all-pro bowler, I done seen a lot of times where next team, in the off season, we had to get rid of them. We got to restart. We got to start over. But if you win as a team, it's like, man, how can we keep all these guys together as long as possible?
Right. Okay. All right. You just said something. You said, if we win as a team, how can we keep all these guys together? You know what?
Right.
I'm glad you brought that up. So in 2013, when y'all won the Super Bowl, right? So you won the Super Bowl, and you had all these guys playing on first contracts. I mean, y'all remember,
Right.
There was a lot of people playing on first contracts, right?
Right.
And a lot of people wanted to keep this team together.
Right.
How come how come the Seahawks couldn't keep everybody together back then, Bane?
Man, it was a situation to where other teams would come in and sometimes offer double, and then when the team offered double and, you don't have as much cap space as you do, the team that you on, you got to go and take that double. Sometimes, a lot of times, you go into a situation to where that team is not a good team, but financially, you only play the game for so long. So it's like you can't pass up those deals, because in football, you don't know if, you might not have a good year the next year or the year after that. So it's like, you got to take it while it's hot.
Hey, Bane, a lot of us at our jobs right now that we working at, we don't even know what the person next to us is making. We don't know what Peter in accounting is making. We don't know what Jane over there in customer service is making. Can I ask you this? Sometimes, do it be hard knowing what some of your teammates make? Do some of y'all be counting other people's money?
Yeah, I mean, that happens. But that's a rule that you definitely we're taught early on as, older players. Do not count other people's money. Do not get in other people's financial business. I think as players, what we should do more is talk more finances on how to save, how to make, how to live after. I think we don't do that enough as players and former players. I think that's something that we definitely can grow and get better with. But as far as like looking at other people's salaries, of course you look, everybody looks, right? Right. But just because they paid him a certain amount of money and they not paying you that, it's like that's something that you have no control over.
Right.
No control over. So it pretty much we got to go back to that same saying: control what you can control. Yeah. And and one thing you can't control is who writing the checks.
So Bane, are you trying to tell me that I'm talking about me now, because I be looking at other people's money. Are you trying to tell me, Bane, that I should be looking at other people's money? Is that what you're saying?
Hey man, you gotta go and be your own negotiator. You don't have an agent. You got an agent.
Well, we got about 60 seconds, and I'm about to tell you and show you how I be looking at other people's money. You want to know how I be looking at other people's money? You want to know, Bane?
Give it to me.
Okay. You see, when I drink a water bottle, I get Kirkland brand. I get them water bottles. Yeah. You drinking water right now. Let me see your water bottle. Right now.
Oh, stop, man.
Let me see your water bottle.
Stop.
Oh, you got that Perrier?
Yeah.
You got that Perrier? Let me tell you something. Just real quick. Sometimes when I be talking to you, I be forgetting about where I am in the tax bracket. And then I talk to you drinking some water and you drinking Perrier. Hey, Bane, I just want you to know that us folks out here, we don't just sit around and drink Perrier.
Oh, man. Hey, man, I get that from Smart and Final, man. You get in the boat. You know, when you don't want to go to Costco,
Oh, wait.
you go to
Wait, you bought a Perrier in bulk? Oh, that's even another level. Hey, Paul, you drink Perrier, my boy? Nope, Paul doesn't drink Perrier. Matter of fact, Perrier, I may drink it one time when I'm out with some friends to make it look like I got my pinky finger in the air.
Oh, man, stop it, man. Hey, man, the whole key is to stay hydrated, man. Stay hydrated, no matter what you drink. Hydrate.
And Bane, what do you stay hydrated with?
Man, I'm gonna keep it real, man. I actually drink filtered water majority of the time.
Okay.
I put ice in my bottle and I drink filtered water, and I let the kids drink the bottled water. Yeah.
Hey, man, well, Bane, look, we out of time, man. It's always fun hanging with you. Before I go, I just want to tell you, bro, you looking slim. You looking good these days.
Man. Weight Watchers. Weight Watchers is key, man. How you eat, man, is I'm still learning, man.
Bang.
It's hard.
How come you love tacos so much?
I don't know, man. It's just one of those.
Is that an LA thing?
I just grew up in. Yeah. And when I went to Mexico City, man, it went to another level. Oh man. The food it was so good down there.
Yeah.
And they actually in Mexico City, man, they have a lot of Michelin star restaurants. We didn't get a chance to go into any, but I think they got like 8 Michelin star restaurants. The food is dope, man. So anybody is looking to get some good food, man, try Mexico City. Man.
I'm not counting money. Hey, Paul, have you ever been to a Michelin star restaurant? Okay, Paul been to some nice restaurants. All right, man. Sir. I'll call you from the car.
All right, man.
All right, bro. Appreciate you. Yes, hey, sir. That's it for us. We'll do this again next week. It's always a blessing having Bane on with us. You all know he give us the good stuff. Hey, hit the subscribe button. We'll do this again. Appreciate you rocking with us. Love you for that. And as always, be good.